What's going on YouTube? Bacon here bringing you another video. This one going to be my week 4 match for the VPL. This week we're going up against Glumac, coach of the Clam Pearl Harbor. Oof. Glumac is actually our newest addition to the admin squad, which means he has input on like tier changes from season to season, rule changes, helps updating the doc, things like that. And then yeah, this is the first season I think he's doing that. But he was in the league in seasons 2 and 3 as well. In season 2, he actually dropped his team because Don and Dave were playing a match, and Dave was basically in a situation where he should have won the game. So Glumac was like, well, if Dave loses this, I'm dropping the league. And somehow, Dave managed to fumble away the game, and Glumac was a man of his word and dropped the league. So I didn't actually end up getting to play Glumac that season. We were on the slate to play, but since he dropped and his team was taken over by Dick at the time, I ended up playing Dick instead. So didn't play Glumac in season 2. Then in season 3, our schedules just didn't line up. Like, he was in the other division, so there's only 3 interdivisional games anyway. Didn't get to play him during those, and then we were on opposite sides of the playoff bracket in season 3, so just didn't get to play him at all. So this is the first time we're facing off against him. We are in the same division this season, so I'm sitting at 3-0 coming into this game, and he is sitting at 2-1. So this game is actually very important, not only for playoff seeding, but just making the playoffs in general. Definitely want to pick up a win here early in the season. Kind of a weird matchup on paper. So looking at his team, he has the Conkelder, the Alakazam, Snorlax, Tyrantrum, Venomoth, Lilligant, Mega Altaria, Greninja, Metagross, Noivern, and Gligar. His Z users for this game, I believe, are Metagross, Noivern, and Lilligant, maybe? Yeah, I think that's right. So, looking at the matchup on paper, I know Glumac's made some changes since this game took place, and I think I kind of know why, or at least to some extent why. His team has a lot of difficulty breaking Mega Aggron plus Vaporeon with Wish Pass. It's very difficult for him to break through the two of those. So it's definitely kind of the first thing that was on my mind, was to bring the Wish Pass into Mega Aggron this game. Mega Aggron was kind of a must bring for the Mega Altaria anyways. And to some extent the Alakazam as well. I just felt like it had a really good matchup. But I'll get into my team builder in a second here. Just a couple other threats on his team. The Alakazam, definitely a huge threat versus me. If I'm Glumac, I'm sitting there like, I need to remove this Mega Aggron and then Mega Altaria wins, right? So what I'm thinking is, I bring Sash counter Alakazam, take a Heavy Slam from Mega Aggron, and just kill it. Like, I would take that trade 100% if I were him. And he could also get some nice Sash counters off on other things, like you turning out with my Tornadus, he can get a Sash counter off on, or even if I knock off, he get a Sash counter on. You turning out with Victini, doing anything with Victini physically, offensively, basically. You could get a counter off with, it'd be a check to my Slurpuff late in the game if it happens to get up a Belly Drum, stuff like that. I just felt like it made a little bit too much sense that I had to play around it in the event that he did decide to bring it. So definitely a huge threat. Otherwise, Alakazam itself, like Life Orb Alakazam, is a huge threat. Calm Mind, whatever. Big problem for my team. Things like Psychic, Shadow Ball, Focus Blast. That's enough coverage. Like, he could run Dazzling Gleam for Hydreigon if he wants to, but Focus Blast probably does the job. I didn't even calc that because I didn't consider bringing Hydreigon to this match. But yeah, Alakazam, big threat. Mega Altaria, obviously, if my Mega Aggron gets chipped down, is a big threat. I think he could run like a special variant of Altaria, just because Fire Blast will do more to me than even like I think +1 Earthquake would from Mega Altaria, despite me not being invested in Fizdef. So Mega Altaria is still a problem, even though I do have the Mega Aggron. I have to make sure that thing's healthy to take on the Altaria. And then Greninja is always a big problem to prep for, but fortunately for me, I have Vaporeon. Greninja really can't do too much to that thing. So yeah, that's kind of the big aspects of the matchup here. Oh, Curse Snorlax also is a huge problem for me if he happens to bring that, and you'll see some of my prep is designed specifically to handle that threat. So yeah, let's get right into my team builder here, what I brought, why I brought it, all that good jazz. First thing up here is Mega Aggron, Leron Swanson, coming in here with Stealth Rock, Heavy Slam, Ice Punch, and Roar, running Max HP, Max Videf Aggron. The crazy calc on Mega Aggron is I think either +5 or +6 Earthquake from Altaria. I should be able to live despite not having any Fizdef investment. Might only be +5, but that's still ridiculous. Mega Aggron's just so bulky, man, on the physically defensive side. So I could just dump it all into special defense instead. Be able to take on a special variant of Altaria a little bit better. I should not get 2-hit KO'd by Modest Fire Blast, I believe, if he's running that. and I don't think he'd run Modest versus me anyways because the Buzzwole was sitting around. So, yeah, I should be able to live most hits from the Mega Altaria. Should be a good check to that thing over the course of the match. Roar is really nice here because it prevents some of his potential setup threats like Tyrantrum, Snorlax, Mega Altaria, even Alakazam, like Calm Mind Alakazam. I can roar all those things out if I'm not in a situation where I can beat them with a Heavy Slam or something like that. Especially the Snorlax, I can't really beat too well with this Mega Aggron. It's kind of weird because he doesn't do a whole lot of damage back to me either. But if he's like a Rest Curse variant, I can't just Toxic him and hope the problem goes away. Heavy Slam's obviously doing nothing to Snorlax because he's also very heavy. And Mega Aggron, like I could run Superpower or something, that kind of defeats the purpose of Mega Aggron, right? If you're lowering your attack and defense stats, so it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me this game. So I felt like Roar was the best way to deal with the Snorlax there, at least on the Mega Aggron side. I have other stuff on the team that can deal with it, but that was just kind of the don't set up on me, I'm gonna roar you out thing with Mega Aggron there. Ice Punch is there specifically for the Noivern and the Gligar. Gligar shouldn't do too much to me with an Earthquake anyways, and if he's thinking, oh, we're just going to trade Stealth Rocks here, I can get a big chunk of damage off on his Gligar, which is good for things like my Buzzwole, my Rotom, things like my Tornadus, Victini even, although this particular Victini set doesn't care too much. So, yeah, getting an Ice Punch off on any of that stuff would be pretty nice for me, and Heavy Slam hits most of the rest of his team, bar the Snorlax. Next up here, we've got Grace the Vaporeon. So like I mentioned, Wish Pass into Aggron is really problematic for his team to deal with in general, so I felt like I kind of had to bring Vaporeon this match. Leftovers Vaporeon with Water Absorb, Scald, Wish, Ice Beam, and Protect. Pretty standard Vaporeon with the exception of running Ice Beam over something like Toxic or Heal Bell or Roar on the Vaporeon. I felt like Ice Beam was fine. Ice Beam should whack the Gligar and the Noivern, of course, as well as do pretty good damage to the Tyrantrum. I'm not actually sure if I OHKO it from full, but it should do good damage to the Tyrantrum at the very least. Yeah, Vaporeon's got a really nice base special attack stat at base 110, so even uninvested, those things are going to be hitting really hard. The most notable calc here is that Ice Beam will guarantee 2-hit KO, no bulk Mega Altaria, so he can't set up in my face for free if he's got Roost or anything like that. Ice Beam is pretty free versus the Mega Altaria if he's trying to set up in my face. I also live a +1 return from that thing. I think the max roll is something like 71 from +1 Mega Altaria to this Vaporeon, because I am running max Fizz Def, so yeah, this is just kind of important team glue here from the Vaporeon. Wish passing into the rest of my team super nice this match, and you'll see how that comes out during the game. But yeah, it's a Vaporeon for this week. Oh, I should also mention Vaporeon is just also really nice natural check to the Greninja. Like even Z-Grass, not Greninja, is not doing a ton to Vaporeon. I can wish off damage. Regular Grass Knot does basically nothing to Vaporeon because it's not very heavy. So yeah, this just kind of by way of being here is a nice check to the Greninja. That's something I can potentially wish up on during the game. Get back out into my Aggron, my Buzzwole, Tornadus, whatever it may be. It's just really nice to have the wish there to help ease some of my switch-ins to some more offensive threats. Next up here, we got Bane the Buzzwole, running Rocky Helmet Buzzwole this week. Drain Punch, Ice Punch, Bulk Up, and Roost. Running pretty close to max HP, quite a bit of speed on there. What am I hitting here? We're hitting 253 speed. I believe I was trying to creep the Gligar a little bit there, just so I would be able to outspeed it and Roost on it, Ice Punch it, whatever. Yeah, I think that's what I was creeping there, was like only a little bit or no speed Gligar. Something like that with the Buzzwole would be pretty nice. Dream Punch just hits most of his team really hard. Things like Metagross even doesn't appreciate Drain Punch, and it can't do too much back to me unless he's running like special Metagross for some reason. Even Zen Headbutts, unless he's like Life Orb, aren't going to do too much to me, and if I bulk up and then start roosting on him, he's taking Rocky Helmet damage. Not a great look for him overall, but the main reason this is here is for the Conkeldurr. I have Conkeldurr in the MWPA, so I have a pretty good sense of what it can do. It's actually my favorite Mon to use in competitive, even though I don't think it's the best Mon, obviously, to use in competitive. My favorite one to use just because it's so hard to kill. But I do know Conkeldurr cannot do what it needs to this Buzzwole. Even if he runs Bulk Up Conkeldurr, he can't break through this Buzzwole. It's insane. Like, if I switch in as he bulks up, and then I bulk up myself, even Sheer Force boosted Fire Punch is doing half, maybe, and I win that 1v1 because A, I've got Rocky Helmet, which will chip him down over the course of that exchange, and B, I have Roost, which is something that Conkeldurr obviously does not have, and C, while he does damage with Fire Punch, I do damage with Drain Punch, which means I'm getting health back over the course of the whole exchange, and he is not. So this Buzzwole is designed to take on the Conkeldurr 1v1. It also does a pretty good job of taking on the Snorlax 1v1 as well. If he's a Belly Drum Snorlax for some reason, I can come in on that thing, just start Drain Punching up. If he's a Curse Snorlax, which is more likely than Belly Drum Snorlax, because Belly Drum Snorlax is a wild set. If he's like Curse Snorlax, I can come in on that thing, bulk up in its face, and do the same thing, beat it 1v1 with my Buzzwole here. So obviously not great for the special attackers on his team, but otherwise it does really, really well this matchup against things like Gligar, things like Altaria. Even if I'm starting to bulk up and he's a physically offensive Altaria, I can actually not necessarily beat that thing, but if I have to take a hit to do some big damage with Ice Punch, I will. Yeah, that's the Buzzwole of this game. Really, really important to help deal with some of his physically offensive mons this match. Next up here is V's Up the Victini. I was really, really torn on what kind of Victini set I wanted to bring. I didn't even know if I wanted to bring Victini, but eventually I decided, yeah, I want to bring Victini, but I was trying to figure out a set that worked. Scarf just didn't seem quite right because it was giving Mega Altaria a free setup if I click a fire move, or if I click an electric move, both of which are kind of important in this match to some extent. And then also there's things running around that are weak to ice, like a lot of things that are weak to ice, most notably like the Gligar is weak to ice, so I want to run Glaciate, and then that's saying, well, if I'm running mixed Victini, or like what am I doing with the Victini? I eventually decided on a kind of wild set here with the Victini. It's something that it can do really badly or it can do really well. This is, I mean, it's a pace set, it's a weakness policy Victini set. So this is a super volatile Victini set. It could work really well or not at all, and you'll see which in the match. But I've got Flame Charge Victini here, running Blue Flare, Focus Blast, Glaciate, and like I said, Flame Charge. Max Special Attack, Timid Nature. The idea behind this is to Flame Charge on something like the Alakazam or the Greninja, going for a super effective hit. I should live Dark Pulse from Greninja. I think I might even be able to live like a Timid Dark Pulse from Greninja, if I'm not mistaken. So like I'm bulky enough to live some hits with this thing. I can live Shadow Ball, Life Orb Shadow Ball from Alakazam as well, and Flame Charge up on that. And if I'm +1, I should outspeed everything on his team, bar Choice Scarf Greninja or Choice Scarf Alakazam, Choice Scarf Noivern. Yeah, basically Choice Scarfers are the only thing that could outrun the Victini after a boost. And I was thinking, like, what would he even bring Choice Scarf? Like, why would he bring Noivern Choice Scarf? It already outspeeds my whole team. Greninja already outspeeds my whole team. Alakazam outspeeds most of my team. I didn't feel like Choice Scarf, not to mention Choice Scarf Zam is wild, so I didn't feel like he would run Choice Scarf versus me on anything, so I felt like Flame Charge definitely had potential to win the game at some point. Focus Blast at +2 should do about 60 to 70% to Snorlax, and that's actually something that could proc my weakness policy as well, if I'm in on that thing, and getting a Mon out of the way with the Victini would be really nice, but getting multiple Mons out of the way would be super nice. And even if my weakness policy is not procced, I can still be useful this match. Like, Glaciate does a ton of damage to Gligar. It might actually straight OHKO it if he's not running Spadef Investment. It also does a ton of damage to Noivern, does a ton of damage to Altaria, and also prevents him from speed boosting in front of me. So even though the Victini is designed as a sweeper, it can still function outside of being a sweeper. Like, it does a lot of damage to the Metagross with Blue Flare. Obviously threatens out the Conkeldurr, even though I don't have a Psychic type move. Blue Flare is still doing a ton of damage to that thing, so overall, I felt like Victini could definitely do something this game, and I brought kind of a weird set because this is the time, the regular season is to try out weird sets that you're not sure if they might work. The playoffs is the time to try out weird sets that you're pretty sure are going to work. So I felt like now was the time to experiment, and if we lose, you know, at least we won't do it next time. So yeah, giving Victini a shot this week with that kind of funky set, but we'll see how it goes. Next up here, we've got Bird Brain the Tornadus, running Focus Sash Tornadus, Taunt, Knockoff, Hurricane, and U-Turn. The thing that Focus Sash allows me to do is not worry about whether or not he's Sash counter Alakazam. I can just straight knock off that thing if I'm at full health and not have to worry about getting countered. And then obviously he's in a position where I can just U-turn out myself, get some Regenerator back, and either kill the Alakazam or force a switch and get into the appropriate Mon after that. So I felt like that was really, really nice from Tornadus here. Plus, getting Regenerator over the course of the match, if I can be at full for, you know, the right times during the match, I can check things like Altaria. If Altaria is DDing on me and my Aggron's too low to check it, if my Focus Sash is intact, I can come in, hit that thing with a Hurricane, and hopefully KO it from whatever range it's at. I can also guarantee take a hit from things like Greninja, get off a U-turn on that, potentially knock off to remove an item. Just a really kind of good, not necessarily anti-sweeping measure, but anti-lead measure, I'll say, in Tornadus here. I can pretty much lead Tornadus for free versus him. Taunt allows me to stop him from getting up Stealth Rocks with anything, allows me to stop him from Toxicking anything, allows me to stop him from setting up with anything. Knockoff can remove an item turn 1 if I want to. Hurricane can just put the hurt in on his team. Like if he leads with Mega Altaria, I'm pretty much just going to taunt that thing and then start spamming Hurricane at it unless he starts attacking me. And if he starts attacking me, I can just U-turn out into Aggron anyway. So, or Victini if I want to. So Tornadus is just a really good lead option for me here, and just a really good utility mon in this match. Taunting to stop him from setting up in my face. U-turn is good to pressure the Alakazam specifically, also pressure the Greninja a little bit if my Focus Sash is intact. It's kind of risky if he's running like Life Orb Ice Beam or Z Hydro Pump. Oh no, he's not Z Greninja, but Choice Specs, Hydro Pump, things like that would be a lot of damage coming out of the Greninja. But I felt like more of a utility Tornadus in this matchup was pretty nice, but I didn't want to fit Defog on there over Taunt. I felt like Taunt was super, super valuable. If I taunt something like the Gligar, I can U-turn out, or I can knock off to remove its EV Light if I want to, but I could U-turn out directly into my Buzzwole if he doesn't switch out, and then he can't even Toxic me. So really, really good matchup for Tornadus here, just overall. Also a decent secondary check to the Conkeldurr. Last up here, we've got Casper the Rotom, running Colbur-Berry Rotom with Levitate, of course, Volt Switch, Light Screen, Defog, and Will-O-Wisp. Light Screen is there specifically to help against the Alakazam, for the most part, actually, and to some extent Special Altaria, if you happen to bring that, and Greninja as well. What Light Screen allows me to do is, specifically with my Victini, live some of those super effective special hits pretty nicely, actually. Like Dark Pulse might do about half, not even, to Victini through Light Screen if he's not running a damage boosting item on his Greninja. So I felt like Light Screen was pretty important in the sense of trying to get that Victini set up. It can help me take advantage of his Greninja in a situation where I might otherwise not have been able to. The Colbur-Berry allows me to eat a Dark Pulse from Greninja, guaranteed. I can Volt Switch out, get some good damage off on that thing, and then pressure it out with U-turn with my Tornadus later in the match. Defog is here because I couldn't fit it on Tornadus, and I've got 2 mons that are weak to Stealth Rock, and then 3 pretty defensive mons. I felt like getting rid of Stealth Rock was super important for me. Keeping it off in the first place is the most important thing, but if they do happen to get up, I need a way to be able to defog. He also has the Spikes options with Greninja, Spikes or Toxic Spikes, and my team really does not appreciate Toxic Spikes this match either, so pretty good defogger here for the match, I felt like, in Rotom. And then Will-O-Wisp is just nice to pressure the Gligar, pressure the Metagross, Tyrantrum, Mega Altaria if it's running DD, things like that. Will-O-Wisp is just really nice to catch there as well. Alright, without further ado, I know we had kind of a long-winded intro there, but this is a really good game, so buckle up. Looking at what he brought the Alakazam, the Altaria, Conkeldurr, Snorlax, Greninja, and Gligar. Pretty close to what I expected this match. I felt like maybe he'd bring one of the Quiver Dance sweepers, Venomoth more likely than Lilligant in this instance, but overall this is about what I expected to see. Looking at lead matchup here, bar the Metagross. He didn't bring Metagross, which means he was actually... Yeah, I mean, I felt like Metagross could come this game, but I see why it didn't. You know, it's not doing a ton to Mega Aggron or Vaporeon, and like I mentioned, physically, offensively, it doesn't do a ton to Buzzwole, so I could see why it wouldn't come. Victini obviously threatens it out. Hydreigon's a possibility. Yeah, I guess I can see a little bit more now why the Metagross didn't come. I mean, I was never bringing Hydreigon because he has Conkeldurr plus Altaria and Gren, Noivern, and Alakazam will outspeed me and can do big damage. I felt like Hydreigon didn't make a lot of sense, but I can see why the Metagross isn't here. Otherwise, like I mentioned, pretty close to what I was expecting in terms of the mons he brought. And like I mentioned in my team builder, Tornadus is just a super free lead. I don't need to think about this at all. I've been planning the whole time to lead with Tornadus. It beats everything on his team 1v1 in the lead scenario. I can either taunt or knock off the Snorlax. I can taunt Mega Altaria and then U-turn out. I can taunt Gligar and then throw off a knockoff or U-turn out. I can knock off the Alakazam because even if he's Sash counter, I'll live because I have a Sash myself. And I can U-turn on the Greninja. And Conkeldurr obviously doesn't want to stay in on a Tornadus, so I could throw off a Hurricane anyways on the Conkeldurr. But yeah, so free lead Tornadus here for sure. It doesn't matter what he's leading with, not even thinking about it. So getting right into the match here, we lead with the Tornadus as he pops off with the Greninja. he's running my my damn nickname. No, I appreciate the shout out with FrogChamp here. FrogChamp obviously carried us all the way to playoffs, all the way to the finals actually last season in the VPL. So definitely appreciate the shout out on the nickname there. I'm just going to U-turn, like I said, turn 1 against the Snorlax coming in. So Snorlax, I guess, is kind of his best answer to Tornadus in general anyways, but this is a free Aggron for me, which is great because now I get to Mega Evolve, which will help me bulk up for things like the Altaria. Conkeldurr was obviously coming in here, but there's not a whole lot that Aggron can do about that. I'd rather get up Stealth Rocks right now. It's going to pressure the Gligar on switch in, Snorlax, Greninja, Altaria specifically, it's going to get some good chip damage off on, so getting those Stealth Rocks up are really nice for me, and his only ways to defog are the Gligar or the Altaria anyways. So like I mentioned, Conkeldurr should not be able to break through my Buzzwole at all as he goes for a knockoff upon switch in. That's kind of unfortunate because I'm going to immediately lose my Rocky Helmet, but I should still be able to take on this thing 1v1. You see he's actually leftovers Conkeldurr, which is generally screaming a bulk up set, which is fine by me. I'm just going to Drain Punch this thing, scat out if he has the bulk up. Like I mentioned, he shouldn't be doing too much to me with Drain Punch or Fire Punch or anything like that, and I'm Drain Punching health back. So he does reveal the bulk up, which, like I mentioned, would ordinarily be pretty threatening right now, actually, but my Buzzwole is prepared. He is carrying bulk up himself, so we're going to start getting swole on him. So really interesting back and forth here we've got going on. So I have to bulk up to match his bulk ups, basically. I don't need to exceed his, because he does have the Alakazam he can go into pretty much at any time, and the Greninja as well that I have to be conscious of. But I basically just have to match when he bulk ups, I need to bulk up, so I can win this 1v1. So gonna Drain Punch here, since we're at the same bulk up strat right now. And then he's going to bulk up again. He definitely realizes, or should realize, that he's losing this 1v1 pretty quickly, actually. But I can't afford to just sit in here and then not bulk up myself as he goes for more Fire Punches. So I'm going to go for a bulk up here as he makes a very good play and goes out into his Alakazam, knowing that I needed to bulk up there. Gets his Alakazam in for free, and now the threat is in, and I don't have great switch-ins. Like, I could go out into my Tornadus here for sure, but if he goes for Psychic, I don't want to take that much damage, and I want to scat out what his set is a little bit, so he's going to go for Psychic here on the Mega Aggron coming in. Does 20% to me, which means he's not Life Orb, but he does unfortunately get a Spadef drop, which means I could be in range of a Focus Blast right now, depending on his investment. So I'm going to go out into Tornadus here, predicting a Focus Blast, as he just goes for the Shadow Ball. So not great here, and I'm going to pause it for one quick second here. Not really playing around this Alakazam super well, because like I mentioned in my team builder, I'm super scared of Sash counter Alakazam, and I know for a fact that he's not Life Orb, which means he's almost guaranteed to be Focus Sash Alakazam. The question is, what kind of Zam is it? Like, Psychic and Shadow Ball tell me basically nothing, because he was carrying those moves anyway, regardless of what kind of set he was. So I still can't really risk going for U-turn or knockoff here, because if he counters me, something's dying, and I don't want something to die. So what I do here is, again, playing really cautiously around the Zam, decide to just hard switch out into my Vaporeon. I figure I can wish up on whatever he does, and scat out the counter, but unfortunately he's Calm Mind, so this is bad. So he's got his Sash intact, and he's Calm Mind Zam. Very not good right now. I'm going to have to take a bunch of damage off on my Vaporeon, just get up a Wish, and then I'm going to have to go out into Aggron. I really just have to hope that he's going to go for Psychic again, basically. He doesn't have a whole lot of reason not to Calm Mind again, but I basically have to hope that he goes for Psychic as I go out into my Aggron here to get back up to full from the Wish. So he makes a smart play here and goes for another Calm Mind, and this is bad. He claims Amon at this point. Like, something is dead. The question's going to be what? So here's the deal. I die, probably, to +2 Focus Blast if he hits. The question is basically whether or not he's going to click it. So I'm sitting here like, I do have my Tornadus. If he goes for Focus Blast as I go Tornadus, I now know that this is not Focus Sash. I could just U-turn out, sack something off, probably Rotom, sack something off, and then kill him with U-turn on the following turn with my Tornadus. So that's a very legitimate, likely, in fact, series of plays that I could make. Because my Altaria, my Aggron is super important for his Altaria, and he knows that, I know that. I don't think you Focus Blast here. I think you Shadow Ball, probably. Just get some damage off on my Aggron, and he does Shadow Ball. I make the right prediction. I go for Heavy Slam. Huge play that he didn't end up clicking Focus Blast there. I explained right there a little bit of why I don't think he should have made the Focus Blast play. So the Shadow Ball play made total sense. But it worked out for me in the end. That was huge for me after playing poorly around this Zam to this point in the game. So, like I mentioned, Rotom is the sack here. Not that it's totally useless against the team he brought, but I just don't see it. I don't see it doing as much as the rest of the team at this point. I could have sacked off Victini as well, but I felt like that still had the potential to do something in this game. Rotom I just felt like wasn't super important. So sack off the Rotom here. Like I mentioned, just get to freely U-turn on this Alakazam. It'll get me back up to full with Regenerator. You see I'm at 98% there. It'll get me back up to full with Regenerator, which means my Focus Sash is back. Super important for the Altaria later in the match, as long as he doesn't get up Stealth Rocks. But yeah, U-turn was free there. It would KO the Alakazam, or if he switched out, it was going to get some momentum on whatever he brought out. So I'm going to go into Buzzwole here instead of the Victini. I felt like this was the better play overall. And just start Drain Punching the Conkeldurr. I don't want it to be alive anymore, basically, is the idea. So we're back in this exchange with the Conkeldurr. He's going to Fire Punch me after I go for my Drain Punch. You see Fire Punch too does a pretty good chunk of damage, but not too much to me. And here I just want to get rid of this Conkeldurr. If he's going to sack it off, that's fine fine by me. It's one less thing to pressure my Aggron out. Also pressures my Vaporeon to some extent, so I'm just going to Drain Punch here. He goes out into Gligar. No big deal. The one thing I don't want this Gligar to do is Toxic me. It should be able to live an Ice Punch from this range because I am uninvested. So I don't want it to Toxic me right here. I'm going to go out into Victini. Victini is the second useless member on this team, or most useless member on this team right now. If he goes for a Toxic here, that's fine by me. I don't mind too much. If he goes for Earthquake on the following turn, he procs my Weakness Policy. So I was just going to go out into Victini here and get up with Glaciate if he decided to go for Stealth Rocks or whatever. But he goes for U-turn here and is able to get out into his Greninja. And hold on, let me pause it again really quick. This is now or never with Victini. Like I mentioned, this Victini set is super volatile, super risky. I can live a Dark Pulse from Timid Expert Belt Greninja from this range, I believe. So I'm like, might as well go for it, right? If I Flame Charge here as he Dark Pulses me and brings me down to my Weakness Policy, I could potentially win the game, depending on the investment on his Snorlax there. So might as well go for it with Victini. At the very least, if he's not Choice Scarf Greninja, I get a Mon here. Or if he's not carrying Water Shuriken, I get a Mon here with Victini, which is nice if I go for Flame Charge. And like I said, there's potential for it to sweep. I'm pretty sure his Conkeldurr doesn't have Mach Punch, so this could happen. So I went for the Flame Charge here as he went for Dark Pulse. Definitely think that was the right play in this sense. I didn't have a great switch into Dark Pulse there because my Vaporeon's low. There's no way you ever Hydro Pump or Scald there and let my Vaporeon in for free. That would be a really bad play on Glumac's end. So he was definitely going for Dark Pulse there, and I was definitely living it, unless he was like, I think Choice Specs or Life Orb. Maybe Life Orb was enough to get the roll there with Dark Pulse, but that's also good information for me to have if he's Choice Specs or Life Orb. So yeah, it was now or never with Victini, so we're going for it. We're going for Flame Charge here, and yeah, I'm getting a Mon here if he's not Choice Scarf Greninja or doesn't have Water Shuriken. So I'm perfectly content with that. I'm going to throw off a Blue Flare here as he is in fact Choice Scarf Greninja. So the volatile Victini set didn't work out. Big shocker. But now I do know for sure that this is Choice Scarf Greninja, which means I have a couple of options here. I could go out into my Buzzwole, but I don't want to risk getting flinched. I'd rather go out into Vaporeon here and throw off a Wish. He goes out into the Alakazam on the Wish, which is a good play because I wasn't going for Scald there really ever. So Wish comes out here from my Vaporeon, and I have a couple options. I could go out into Mega Aggron again, but if he predicts that and goes for Focus Blast, it's really bad for me. Because he's not boosted, I do live a Psychic from this range, so I'm just going to stay in and go for Scald to get rid of the Alakazam, and get my Vaporeon back up to a good amount of HP. This is going to be super important to help take on the Greninja, the Gligar. I outspeed the Conkeldurr. I can help take on the Altaria as well. Like, Vaporeon is super useful in this match, so I do not mind catching that Wish with my Vaporeon at all. You can see he was trying to catch my Aggron there with Focus Blast. I didn't really have a reason to make that play, I don't think. Let me pause it again really quick. I don't think I had a reason to make that play going into Aggron there, just because, like, if he predicts me in Focus Blast, I get absolutely nothing out of that exchange, and I probably lose, honestly, if he predicts my Aggron there and Focus Blast me to death. So I felt like the play there was just to stay in with Vaporeon. I lived any hit you went for bar crit, so it seemed like the better play to just stay in with Vaporeon there and get rid of the huge threat that is Alakazam. Anyways, Greninja comes out here. I already know that this thing's Choice Scarf, so what I'm going to do here is Protect to scout out what move it's going to go for. Don't really care what he's clicking here, honestly. Protect should be fine. I'm just trying to figure out why he would bring it back out on the Vaporeon itself. Turns out he's Toxic, so good thing I protected there. Getting a Toxic on this Vaporeon would have been super bad for me, and I obviously can't allow that to happen, but I also don't want to allow the Conkeldurr in. The best thing for me to do mid-ground wise is to go into Buzzwole, predicting him to go Conkeldurr, and if he stays into Toxic, it's not the worst thing in the world. So he does get Toxic off on my Buzzwole, but now I'm just going to be able to Drain Punch for pretty free here. I could Ice Punch if I really wanted to, predicting him to switch out, but I think it's possible he sacks off Greninja at this point in the game, so I figured Drain Punch is probably the best idea anyways. Drain Punch into Ice Punch is likely to kill Gligar based on what I've seen from earlier. Oh no, I roosted. Sorry, I roosted. That was even better because now I'm a better check to the Conkeldurr and the Snorlax. So I roosted there. Ice Punch is a roll to KO this Gligar, I believe, so I'm going to click it. He unfortunately lives on 1%, but then fortunately for me, gets frozen. Glumac was going for Stealth Rocks there, which actually could have had a significant impact later in the game. You'll see a couple rolls would have been severely helped by Stealth Rocks. I would have had to protect a few more times with my Vaporeon, which creates some mind games. Basically, him not getting up Stealth Rocks there was big, but not like totally game changing. So obviously feel bad for the freeze, but you know, it's Pokemon. What are you gonna do? Gligar's down, no Stealth Rocks for him. And Buzzwole's actually sitting pretty nice here. He kind of has to go out into either the Altaria or the Greninja right now. If he goes out into Altaria, he's taking a lot of Stealth Rock chip. And this Greninja is also starting to get worn down. So Greninja comes out here. Basically, Vaporeon is free here. I don't think you Toxic the Toxic Buzzwole here in case I decide to sack it off. So I'm going to go out into Vaporeon here as he goes for a Spike. Spikes are a little bit annoying, especially because my Aggron is still chipped. But that means it's a free wish for my Vaporeon here, and he cannot stop it because the only thing he can do here is go out into his Conkeldurr, which denies my Aggron, of course, from coming in. I don't want to risk my Buzzwole here. If he decides to go for Fire Punch, saying I have to deny this Aggron, but I can also deny the Buzzwole with Fire Punch, there's no reason for me to switch out here. I'm just going to say, you know what, I'll take the full health Vaporeon, and I will KO this Conkeldurr. So I'm going to go for Scald here, knock out the Conkeldurr. Vaporeon is sitting real nice right now. He's only really got a couple of options here. He can go back out into Greninja and try to Toxic me again. He could start setting up on me potentially with Snorlax if he's like a Facade variant. And he could try to set up on me with Altaria, but he doesn't know I have Ice Beam yet. So he goes back out into the Greninja. Here, I think he'd Scout for a Protect and not go for Toxic. I think he'd go for Spike here, as he does. So I'm just going to throw off another Wish, and that means now I get my Aggron back up to full. So this is huge. Getting Aggron in here, I don't care about how many layers of Spikes he gets up, because that's a ton of health back on my Aggron. It's going to mean I can check the Altaria later in the game, and even the Snorlax shouldn't be doing too much for me. So he basically has to start all over again with the Vape plus Aggron core after all the progress he made early in the game. Both are back up to full now. So Aggron comes in here, back to 100%. Like I mentioned, I can't do much to this Snorlax, but I don't want him to start cursing in my face. So I elect to just click Roar here. He goes for Earthquake and actually does a sizable chunk of damage. Looks like he's pretty attack invested on the Snorlax. So I'm just going to Roar out here, as he turns out to not go for Curse that turn. Turns out he actually didn't have Curse. He was Recycle, Earthquake, Body Slam, something else, Fire Punch maybe, can't remember. But I do get out the Greninja. Not the best case scenario, Altaria would have been best case scenario, but I'm fine getting out the Greninja because that's its last switch into Rocks, which means he's probably not going to go for Toxic, especially on my Aggron. So I'm going to go out into the Vaporeon here to eat this Dark Pulse. The only way he can KO me here is with 2 Dark Pulse flinches, which, you know, I'm not Finn, so that's not going to happen to me. That's what I told myself. So he goes for Dark Pulse, he flinches me, and now I'm getting a little nervous. I might be Finn. So basically I just have to not get flinched by this Dark Pulse. You see I'm out of range of a second one. I'm just going to throw up a Wish here on the Greninja here as he goes for Dark Pulse, and thankfully does not flinch the Vaporeon down. I don't think he won if he got that Dark Pulse flinch, but it definitely would have made things a lot harder for me. I would have had to go out into Tornadus to revenge kill him, hopefully not continue to get flinched. It would have been a little bit fuzzy, but because I do get that Wish off, I'm just going to be able to Protect here. Whether he switches out or not, Protect is absolutely the only play I can go for. I can't risk him staying in to sack off the Greninja, especially because it dies to Rocks, so I wasn't sure if he would save it as a sack or not. So go for the Protect there, get back up to a pretty good amount of HP on my Vaporeon. Like I mentioned, I am out of range of a return here, and after a Leftovers turn, I'm actually going to be out of range of +1 return. So what I can do pretty comfortably here is just Ice Beam this Altaria. If he decides to set up, he decides to set up, which he does. But Ice Beam here, like I mentioned, is going to be a guaranteed 2-hit KO. Even if he's running Roost, he can't Roost off this much damage. Doing 55% with that nice uninvested Ice Beam from Vaporeon. And I'm still, as I mentioned, out of range of +1 return. So Vaporeon's going to be able to get rid of this Altaria, which is huge for me. The Greninja's dead, so I don't need Vaporeon anymore anyways. So I'm going to be able to live that return guaranteed unless he crit me. And Ice Beam's going to be able to take care of the Altaria. Worst case scenario, I guess I could have gone out into Aggron to take another hit from the Altaria and knocked it out. But Vaporeon thankfully able to come through here and KO that thing. So now the only thing he's got left is the Snorlax. What I can't allow him to do here is just start cursing up in my face, because I'm pretty sure he's Berry since he hasn't shown leftovers. So I can't allow him to start cursing up in my face here at all, and risking Scald Burns doesn't help if he's Facade. So I'm going to go immediately out into my Tornadus here to taunt this thing as he goes for Body Slam. Does 46% to me. I'm like, okay, I can taunt this thing, and then I can knock off its Berry, and then I can U-turn out, was my plan. Or no, I didn't even need to U-turn out. All I had to do was knock off its Berry. But we had some nice little min-roll, max-roll action there. So I think this was Adamant Max Attack Snorlax based on that damage. And it turns out the 46% was min-roll, and then the 54% was max-roll. So overall, like, it's not hacks. Like, it averaged out to a mid-roll, but it's just really funny. Because I was sitting there like, what the... what? So unfortunately not able to knock off the Berry on the Snorlax, which is potentially problematic depending on his investment. He could live a Drain Punch from my Buzzwole. The nice thing is Drain Punch is going to get a ton of health back from the Snorlax, but instead of going for Drain Punch here, what I elect to do is go for Roost. I think he's going to sack the Greninja here, and Roost is kind of overall my best play. It's going to allow me to live 2 Body Slams from the Snorlax as I go for Drain Punch. So Roost I felt like was overall the best play there, and now I can just go for Drain Punch pretty free. If he sacks the Greninja, Drain Punch plus the health I'm at right now will allow me to live 2 from the Snorlax. I get a crit there. Don't know if that mattered. Like I said, it depended on his investment, but Drain Punch there. It's going to KO the Snorlax, and it's actually going to seal us the game. So Greninja is going to die Stealth Rocks upon entry. Only 43 turns this time, guys. Obviously, like, I have a pretty bulky team, so my games are going to generally be a little bit longer. It's not quite stall, but it's definitely bulk. Like, Wish Pass plus Mega Aggron is going to be a slow game. And Glumac was playing around it really, really well early in the game, getting the Alakazam in, Calm Winding up. It was posing a huge threat to my team. The big turning point in the game was me predicting he wouldn't go for the Focus Blast with his Zam there, and getting off the Heavy Slam to bring him down to Sash. What that allowed me to do was just sack off the Rotom and revenge it with Tornadus. So the Alakazam did more damage than maybe it should have. Like, if I had just not been so scared of Sash counter, I could have just U-turned earlier on with a Tornadus and then not had too much of a problem with it. But instead I got cute. I was hard switching around, and I made it way more of a problem for myself than it should have been, and then I forced myself into a role where I had to predict he wasn't going to go for the Focus Blast. So very, very good game to Glumac. Super fun game. The self-proclaimed one of the best games of the season for sure. Yeah, that's the game. We're 4-0 now. Glumac is 2-2. Obviously, he's still a big threat to make playoffs. Very good player. He's got a very solid team, especially after the drops he made. I think he's made some significant improvements, especially in his matchup versus me, which is problematic if he makes playoffs and we play. Like, he had a Mega Gallade specifically, which is hugely problematic for my team. So, yeah. We'll see how that goes if we end up playing him again in playoffs, but super, super good game to Glumac. Again, make sure you check him out if you're interested. He does stream pretty frequently, actually, on Twitch. Go leave him a follow. He's getting close to the sub button, I think. And like I mentioned, he does do weekly recaps for the VPL if you're interested in those. Definitely go check him out when he's streaming. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching if you did to this point. I'm guessing this is a pretty long video at this point because I feel like I've talked a lot. So I'm just going to say, have a good one, guys, and I hope to see you again in another video. Bye-bye.